Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review in reaction to Yellowjackets Season 2, Episode 3. If there were not enough bee-related puns before, we are buzzing with excitement now to get into an episode that is really jam-packed and bizarre, and also we have like a Coach Ben spotlight out of nowhere. There's a lot here.
There's a lot of theories that are going to be coming up in this video about Lottie and the bees and sort of the vision that she saw at the end of this episode. We've got some theories coming up on Ty and what's really going on with her, with sort of the man with no eyes and what she's seeing and what she's not remembering. So we have so many theories coming up. So put on your tinfoil
Yeah,
hats early because we're going
yeah.
to be getting right into it. But before we do, hit that subscribe button. We are here every week talking about Yellowjackets. We also have Succession here at the channel, The Blacklist. We're covering Survivor, Ted Lasso. There's all kinds of great stuff. So hit that subscribe button and stick with us.
Follow us on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. All right, so there's a lot to get into, but let's start with Taissa and the man with no eyes, because this has been out there for a long time.
Okay. There's a couple of like wild theories out there, and there's a couple wild theories that I came up with this morning or that I was thinking about this morning that I was just kind of like, it could be going
Oh
here,
boy.
but then there's also the theory of where I think it's actually going. Okay, so let's go with where I think it's actually going. So we remember when Ty was very young and her grandma was passing and they saw the man with no eyes. And it was a very, traumatic experience for Ty. I think that experience, facing, the death of her grandmother, somebody she, really loves, and, having this really sort of scary, shared, hallucination of what was going on with this man with no eyes really traumatized her to the point that she carried that trauma with her, and it manifested into something bigger where she started having these like blackouts. She didn't know what was going on, that it's not always necessarily while she's asleep or sleepwalking. Some of it seems to be happening then, some of it seems to not be happening then. I mean, we saw her in this episode wide awake, looking in the mirror, sort of at herself and, covering her eye and what's going on. And that's what I think it is. I think it's this trauma she had at a very young age that has manifested itself into this. Now, my other sort of more off the wall theory, but maybe not. I
Let's
don't know.
see.
Listen, this show is very sort of mirrored in the science of it all, what's real, what's not, what's kind of a mystical, spiritual, the other side of things, the unexplained. Is it possible that the man with no eyes has possessed her and has followed her throughout life? And I mean, there's lots of people out there that do believe in possession or ghosts or things of that nature that can be affecting you. Maybe that has happened to her, sort of like Penny Dreadful for any of you out there that watch that show. And if you
Yeah.
haven't watched that show and you like Yellowjackets, that is the show for you. Anyways, the main character, this is not a spoiler by any means, was going through the very same thing. She was, unaware of what was happening to her when she was possessed, and things, were happening around her. And we are seemingly in this same spot here. And because the wilderness is having sort of this strange, unexplained things that are happening, maybe this is something that Taissa has brought with her there, and it's affecting everyone.
See, this is interesting because I think there are a lot of people out there. I'm probably one of them. I will admit to that. That is sort of in this camp of, I want Yellowjackets to be sort of the Scooby Doo of Showtime dramas where you unmask everything and there's a somewhat reasonable explanation. However,
We've already had that show. It was Lost, where it was like you went through the whole show and it was like, oh, this is happening. Oh, it's really a guy behind the curtain with a smoke machine. It's not really supernatural.
but there is also this other animated show called The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo where things were actually like really supernatural. It's the weirdest show ever, but you know what? Maybe this is the weirdest show ever. Maybe that is sort of the point. Maybe we are meant to think that there's going to be an explanation when in reality, maybe there isn't going to be one. And to be honest, like, I don't care so much if they explain every single thing because that is sort of the trap of Lost. I think they got too much pressure in the you have to figure out X, Y, and Z. It's like I'm here more for the characters. Like I want
Mhm.
to know with Ty more than anything else, like, is there a way to actually help her? Like, is there a way to actually make this better, or is this just who she is?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, yes, this is a show about a soccer team that,
Yeah.
crash and everything that's going on, but this is also really in its roots a show about mental health and what was happening to them before they even got on the plane, what happened to them while they were out in the wilderness, and how they're dealing with it now as adults, which is not very good, right?
Mhm.
Like, what happened when they got back? Did anybody get any help? Did everybody reject help? Like, was there just kind of like no helping? Like what happened? And because there's such a deep root of that, an exploration of that on the show, I think we're going to get even deeper into that.
Well, since we're on the subject of mental health here, I'll move a little bit into my theory about Misty because here's the bad part of this is that I think it could be easy to just sort of be like, look, everyone, it's the antics of Misty and Elijah Wood's Walter, where they're interrogating this dude. Ha ha ha, look how weird it is. And it's just sort of like, I obviously don't want that to be the case because I just think it's a waste of time. And I think for Misty, like her big, struggle has always been I don't fit in anywhere.
Mhm.
Nobody likes me. I think there's something more going on to this Walter guy where I think there's a good chance he is tied somehow to what happened way back when. Either he knows somebody or, let's get really crazy here,
Oh.
he was out there too, not with them, but they have entertained this possibility in the previews that there could be there's somebody else out there. Is he tied to that in some way? And does he know, here's Misty, she's desperate for somebody to connect with. I can connect with her. I can make her feel special and empowered that she's the one getting me to really go after this guy. What is his end game with all of this? You have the one ring of power, Elijah Wood. What are you going to do with your precious?
All
I'm
right.
done.
No, I mean, that's a really interesting theory. It could be that he was someone that was out there, not necessarily ran into them out there, but was someone who was there and then came back as well. Could be connected to a family member of somebody else who was out there. Or it could be connected to the whole Adam situation. They have talked a
Yeah.
little bit about that, where he was like, oh man, you downvoted me. What's the deal with that? Oh, I know his mom, and this is just making things worse for her, and I'm trying to help out, sort of thing. It's just kind of interesting that he brought that up at the end of it all. And it makes me feel like it's kind of tying back into everything with Shauna, where it was, she thought Adam was like there to get the scoop on her because nobody really knows what was going on out there. And it turned out, not the case, really, right? But maybe Walter is the case. And because they already had the red herring in season one, in
Yeah.
season two, we're going to be like, well, they already kind of did that, but not really. So Walter's probably not going to be there investigating that. But he is a citizen detective, right? And he has been asking questions about Adam. And now all of a sudden he's friends with Misty. I'm a citizen detective now. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Here's another twist has entered the chat. Okay. Let's do a hot take here. Does anybody really care that much about Shauna in the car in this episode? Because I gotta be honest, other than just being like, okay, here's what Shauna's still capable of. It's just sort of like, all right, fine. Can we get back to Shauna and the weird baby shout? Can we do something else with Shauna?
Listen, I just didn't really believe it. Like, she's entered into sort of this criminal empire, like chop shop. She's, waving this gun around. The minute that she turned her back, I was like, that's it. This guy's just gonna jump on her and whatever. Like, it was kind of unbelievable. And I know that they needed to have something kind of happen like this, but it just didn't hit. And I think that's been kind of the problem with a lot of the sort of present stories of everyone who's sort of like Adult, Taissa working really well. Adult Misty, some of it's okay. Adult
Yeah.
Lottie, great. She's got a great story that's going on. They
Yeah.
seem to not know what to do really with Shauna. Like she's kind of all over the place, which is, what they're going for, obviously, but it's so chaotic that it's like, well, where is it kind of going? Like, what is she trying to get out of this? And then there's Natalie, who they really do not know what to do with her. Like, she's such a great character. Love Juliette Lewis. I mean, I've loved her forever. She's just amazing. And it's just, where is her story? She got, taken by Lottie's crew to save her life. And now she's just wandering around this compound being like, hello? Like, I was like, you said you were leaving
Yeah.
the next day. Like, why are you still here? What is the purpose? You're not connecting with anybody. You don't really want to be here. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. Like, why
You guys are wasting her.
why is she not being like, Lottie, you said that someone would drive me the next day. It's clearly the next day at this point. Like, that stuff is weird. Like, really, I like it when the show's weird, but it's got to
Yeah.
make some element of sense.
No, it has to make sense. Either Natalie's making some kind of connection to what Lottie's doing, or we see that she's kind of checking things out more. I mean, there was that moment with the girl that she stabbed with a fork of kind of like, oh, what's over there? Oh, we're all not allowed over there. All right, cool, sort of thing. There just needs to be something that's a little more concrete with what is happening with her. Like, what is she doing?
Well, since we're already at the compound with Lottie and Natalie, let's just do it with the bees. Let's get into this.
Okay, it's time to put on our third
Oh,
tinfoil
right,
hat
all
here.
right.
Okay, so
There's a lot of tinfoil. All right.
listen, so there was everything that happened with the bees. So Lottie told this story about the queen bee and how, all the other potential queen bees all get, killed off. So there can only be one. And obviously these are comparables back to what happened in the wilderness and sort of the antler queen and that sort of thing. That was very, obvious on the plate there. Then she has this vision at the end that she goes back to her beehive. She pulls out one of the screens as covered in blood, and she got blood on her hand. So it could be sort of taken literally in sort of her own mind. That's like, oh man, I have blood on my hands. I did these things in the wilderness, and this is what's happening. But my theory is that all the end game of this show is that all the Yellowjackets are going to die and in the present, that they were never meant to leave. It's almost like the Lost Island again, where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we need to go back, we never should have left, kind of thing. If Lottie's story about Travis and her being there and everything that happened is even just a little bit true, where he was raised up, we know that he died, and she had a vision where she was like brought back to sort of the wilderness and that connection again. Does she think that by sort of giving up Yellowjackets, that she then is getting back to that wilderness? It's almost like sort of Taissa and the dog, except on a much larger scale here, where it's like Lottie thinks that by giving up a Yellowjacket back to the wilderness, that then she can sort of get that feeling back, that calling back, that connection back that she was having when she was out there, and she's still trying to hold on to now back in the present. I think that was a symbol that we are going to lose all of them.
I love this theory. I think this just gives a new purpose to the present timeline in a way that we don't really have. And I think that is the biggest problem with the present timeline, is we're just wandering around with different people for these chunks of time. But if we are building into this situation where all of you people are in danger and you don't even really know it, like, that gets all the more interesting, because I think you could get into this situation where maybe season 3, season 4, it would be kind of ironic if Citizen Detective Misty is the one who really figures all this out, where they're
She's a
just like,
smart girl.
yeah, okay, everybody is dropping. How do we find a way to stop it at this point? But at that point, the train has already left the station, and so it's just kind of like, oh no, it may just be too late. But I think that's a very interesting way that this show could go to get us that much more invested in those present stories.
Yeah, I think they need to do something with the present stories. The thing that made it work as well as it did last season is that these 4, 5 people all came together. Like, obviously Lottie showed up a little bit later or whatever, beginning of the season. But they
Yeah.
they were all working together to sort of get to where they are now, and it was really interesting and fun and wild to see them all kind of working together, even at the end, like
Yeah.
working with everything that happened with Adam, where they all showed up for her to try to figure it out.
Okay, and before we get into the past, here's a tiny beef with the Yellowjackets team. You guys promised me Lauren Ambrose, darn it. We are 3 episodes into this
I
show.
know.
Where is Adult Van? I want to know. I want answers. Okay.
It's tough to know. I mean, like, they're not really revealing anything.
Yeah.
I think I saw a commenter on Twitter had mentioned that, IMDb had that she was going to be in this episode. But I mean, IMDb is wrong all the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
So, I mean, who knows when she's going to be here?
Okay, let's talk about Coach. We're going into the past now. My guy Coach.
So heartbreaking.
I feel really, obviously terrible for this guy. He has gone through clearly a lot. This whole episode is very Coach centric in a way where we sort of see everything that he went through before being there, the decisions that he made, and he's still struggling with the fact that obviously he just saw a lot of these people that he's tried to teach and help and coach just eat one of their former teammates. Like, that
Yeah.
is a lot. I thought that Coach was going to die sooner rather than later. But here's the thing. What if Coach lives through at least the end of the season, maybe season 3, maybe over time, some of these people are actually going to kind of deviate away from this, Lottie way of thinking, the super out there. Maybe they'll harbor some guilt. Maybe Coach becomes a voice of reason, an alternative. I think he's going to die. I think we all think he's going to die. What if he doesn't die because of hunger, but rather because he is an ideological threat to the other forces?
It very well could go that way. I mean, like, I had thought originally when, everything was going to happen with Jackie and that they were going to eat, that it was going to be a little bit at a time, a couple of the girls, and there'd be another group that'd get very divided where some were eating, some weren't eating. I didn't expect it to be like everybody's eating but Coach.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the way that it went, but that's kind of where it is. And him having these regrets and just thinking like, man, if I had just stayed with my love and moved forward with this, like, I wouldn't be here at all. I'd be living a very happy life. Like, how did I make this decision, sort of thing? And I don't know what's going to happen with him. I mean, I don't think that he makes it back or anything like that. But one of the things I did find interesting about the past is just that nobody really talked about what they did with Jackie. And I think for me, instead of having the baby shower, I would have liked to have seen a little more dealing with, the guilt or no guilt or, like all of those types of feelings, and having more conversations between the girls of like, how do we feel about this? Are we okay with this? Like, what do we do moving forward? Do we ever talk about this again? Like, I expected some of the girls were not going to talk about it at all, but I expected that there would be more of a majority of girls that would be like, yeah, like, let's talk this through. How did this happen, and how do we feel about it afterwards?
I thought there would at least be a couple of people because, you touched on it. Everybody reacts to things like this differently.
Sure.
And, there's going to be people who just want to sort of compress it and just like store it away in their mind and never think of, but there's going to be people who want to talk about it. And like, that's where I even thought it would have been an opportunity with Coach. And maybe that will come up a little bit later where, they know he wasn't at that table. So maybe somebody would go to him and be like, listen, I'm having a really hard time with this. You have been there for me in the past for whatever reason back, in normal society. So could you help a little bit with this as well?
I think the issue is just nobody respects him and nobody listens to him. And, he's so isolated, and now he's even more isolated by not joining the feast, and he's isolating himself even more because, you know, he's getting really depressed about everything that's happening. He's losing hope, which is why, you know, he was really in his mind and thinking back to what should have been, what could have been.
I just don't. I think I'm gonna be in denial with Coach for a while because I don't want to lose him. Like, I think he's a fascinating character, and I like that there is like this adult in the room who sort of comes from this other world and is able to sort of cling to that. I think more because he has this life experience and he feels this responsibility for the girls.
To me, the most adult person in this room is Van, and it's not even close. Like, she's so sort of mature for her age in this group, like how she's dealing with Taissa and her love for her and what she's putting into her. I mean, she just like matured overnight.
She really.
I love Van.
I love. This is why
I love the performer. If you've never seen them over on Santa Clarita Diet,
Yeah.
you are really missing out. Their performance over there and their comedic timing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. They are amazing.
Yeah, they're great. And I think in general, there's a lot of people in the past that still, you sit back and you're just like, can we do a little bit more with them? And I think Van is one, obviously, in part because, you know, I want the Lauren Ambrose stuff to come into play. But it is also just like even with Shauna, I'm just at this point now where I'm just like, can we just find out about the baby already? I mean, you guys had the baby shower. We obviously know the baby's coming. We don't know what happens to the baby.
All we know is Lottie thinks it's a him.
Great, Lottie.
Yeah, which was kind of interesting because I've seen some pretty wild theories out there that the character, I think her name is Lisa, that got stabbed with the fork is like Shauna's baby from then, or is Natalie's baby, or somebody's baby. There's some sort of connection or something like that. I've got my tinfoil hat off for that. I think she's just someone at the compound that, you know, had a fork in the eye.
Yeah, I think compound red shirt. I guess compound purple shirt, if you want to go that direction. No, I think there's obviously room for a lot of theories. I think this episode does a great job with some stuff. I think it could have done a better job with really unraveling everything that happened post Jackie. Also, more post Javi as well. We got like a little bit of Natalie and Trap, but it's just like, come on, guys.
No, I think that's going to be a little further in the season. I think at this point, now that Natalie has planted this sort of, here's these pants that have this blood on it, that everyone's just like, okay, we've all sort of accepted what is going on here. I mean, we'll close this video by talking about, you know, the white moose that she saw out there, sort of, you know, did she really see this? Did she not really see this? What does it actually mean? Is it sort of like a, you're gonna be fed again or you're not? Like, what was really happening there? Because at the end, we saw that Shauna had a nosebleed. The blood dripped on the symbol. All of a sudden, birds fell out of the sky, which is why I was kind of like, could Ty maybe be dealing with possession? I mean, there's some things that are not going to be able to be explained by Ben in the smoke machine. For all you lost people out there, like everything ended up having like some kind of reasonable explanation. And I don't think this show is going to do that. I don't think they're going to do us that dirty.
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily a reasonable explanation. I think there's a lot of spirituality in a lot of different things. I mean, the white moose, I mean, there's a lot of symbology around, you know, the white stag. It's kind of sort of adjacent to that in some way. You know, there's a lot of different meanings that are out there for birds, which, okay, here's the thing. It would be very easy to title everything related to this episode The Birds and the Bees, because just like, how can you not, everyone? But okay, all right. Well, we will be back to discuss more Yellowjackets. We're only a small chunk of the way through this season, so hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any of that, and we will see you here next time.